Salam to you all. Today we will start the new chapter, the Delhi Sultans. You might have a little inclination about what is going to happen in this chapter because as we were studying in the last year, we had a little of the stories that are going to happen in this chapter. But just listen, and if there is any problem that you are encountering while I'm teaching, just let me know immediately so that we can take care of that. All right. So there was no kingdom which was under the name of Delhi before the 11th century. We studied a lot of new kings and kingdoms in the previous chapter, but there was no kingdom by the name of Delhi or around that area. It was a very small place which was not very developed. What started changing, it was around the 11th century that the Chauhans or the Chahamanas as they are called, they established an empire there. They started establishing a city. It became a center for trade and many giant traders used to live there. Is my voice not clear to everyone or is it just Yogita? If my voice is not clear, please write Y in the chat box. Yogita, please check your earphones. There might be some problem with your earphone. Please do that. Thank you. Okay. So the Chauhans, they established the city of Delhi. Earlier, Delhi was what it was, a compilation of small places. The name of those places were Delhi, Kohna, Siri, and Jahanpana. And that map is given on your page number 1, on the page number 30 of these small places here. And on the next page, we have a chart of the rulers that ruled Delhi. It starts with Rajput dynasty, Tomar and Chauhans, and then it moves towards the Muslim dynasties. The Muslim dynasties, they were the people who came from the Middle East and established their empire, which was first known as the Delhi Sultanate. And the first kind of dynasty that established there was the slave dynasty or Ghulam dynasty. Can anybody tell me any ruler of that dynasty? We have already read a lot of these things in the past year. Just write it in the chat box. Any ruler? Anyone?
Ma'am, which dynasty?
I'm talking about the slave dynasty, beta.
Slave dynasty. Oh.
अच्छा, कुतुब मीनार का नाम कितने लोगों ने सुना है? कुतुब मीनार. Yes. So Qutub Minar, it is a monument which is in Delhi. It was the construction of Qutub Minar was started by the first ruler of the slave dynasty. His name was Qutubuddin Aibak. See, Qutubuddin, Qutub Minar. Who Qutubuddin was and why it is called the slave dynasty? It is called the slave dynasty because you might have heard about the stories of Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori. Have any idea about that? They had a battle and it is quite famous in our country. So, yes, Aditya, Iltutmish, he came after that. So the slave dynasty was named after Qutubuddin Aibak because he was the slave of Muhammad Ghori. When Muhammad Ghori went back, he gave Delhi Sultanate to his slave, which was Qutubuddin Aibak, and hence the name of slave dynasty came to a place. Then Qutubuddin Aibak had a son-in-law. His name was Iltutmish. Qutubuddin Aibak died pretty early in his life. It is said that he was ruler only for like 4 years and he fell off a horse and died. And Qutub Minar was not even completed by him. It was completed by the subsequent rulers, the rulers who came after him. When Iltutmish became ruler, he started to establish a system. He tried to establish a system, but he was not exactly very successful. But when Iltutmish died, he had a lot of successors. Successors means he had a lot of sons. Usually, in these kind of empire, the son were given preference over any other child that they have. So he has many sons, but he has this firm belief that his daughter, her name was Razia was more capable ruler than his sons. So what he did, he asked his people who were also known as Chahalgani, and they were like 40. It is said that there were like 40 advisors. He asked those advisors that after I die, Razia should be made ruler. So Razia did become ruler, but people were not exactly happy with her. Why? We will keep on unraveling that. And after Razia came Balban. Balban was the person who made this empire very strong. हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट आयरन फिस्टेड रूलर? वो रूलर्स जो बहुत ज्यादा कहते हैं ना हर चीज को अपने कंट्रोल में रखते हैं. बलबन वाज दैट काइंड ऑफ रूलर. ही मेड दिल्ली वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग. And after Balban, there were a lot of his weak rulers, and then the dynasty was overthrown by Khaljis. Khaljis, a lot of people see movies. There was Jalaluddin Khalji, and then there was Alauddin Khalji. Jalaluddin Khalji, he came from Afghanistan. He established his own dynasty, but he was murdered by his nephew and who was also his son-in-law. His name was Alauddin Khalji. He was the second most important ruler of Delhi Sultanate. He was also a very strong ruler. He was also a very brutal ruler, and he did a lot of things for the welfare of people. This is what we will read in this chapter. We will read some of the things that Alauddin Khalji did. And after the Khaljis, which dynasty come? Can anybody tell me?
Tughlaq dynasty.
Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty, and Lodi dynasty.
Okay.
These
So
three dynasties after Khalji dynasty.
Okay. So we will start with the Tughlaq dynasty. You must have heard about the name of Firoz Shah Kotla. Right now it has been renamed after Arun Jaitley, but there was a very famous ground in Delhi. It was named Firoz Shah Kotla. It was named after Firoz Shah Tughlaq of the Tughlaq dynasty. But the most important ruler of this dynasty is Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In case I have not told you about his stories, just remind me. We will start with his story. He has very interesting things that he did during his empire, and he is also one of the rulers that we will study in detail in this chapter. The subsequent dynasties after this were the Sayyid dynasty and the Lodi dynasty. We do not have much to cover about these dynasties, but you should know that these people also existed. Okay, can anybody tell me what happened after Lodi dynasty?
Ma'am, after Lodi dynasty, Mughal dynasty came.
Yes, very good, Vyom. After the Delhi Sultanate was uprooted by the Mughal dynasty. Mughals we will read in the next chapter, but you should know how things are getting interconnected. Okay, am I clear till now? Everybody is following me? क्या चल रहा है? समझ में आ रहा है ना सब?
Yes.
In class 6th, we read some things about how we get information about past. Can anybody remind me quickly? Just please write your name in the chat box, because if you start speaking all of a sudden, it becomes a little confusing here. Soumya, yes, please unmute your mic, Soumya, and tell me, how do we study history?
Ma'am, by the old documents are written a long time ago, or some other things like fossils.
Good, very good. Thank you, Soumya. Anumega and Vyom, I will ask you some other questions. Please wait for some time. I already got the right answer. Thank you so much. So, what we refer to when we are reading history, we refer to sources. See, sources are very important in history. The sources could be anything. It could be a rock painting. It could be something that was written somewhere. But when we are talking about the medieval time, and during the medieval times, medieval time कौन सा है जो हम अभी इस साल पूरा पढ़ रहे हैं? जितना हमने जहाँ से शुरू करा ना, वहां से medieval era शुरू हो जाता है. So medieval era की खासियत क्या थी? That there is a lot of written evidence of things. People started writing more than they did in the ancient times. So we have more written document. Now, when we are talking about Delhi Sultanate, there were particular people who were responsible for writing these things. They were known as Tariq. Tariq, or in plural, they are known as Tawarikh. So these were the people who were responsible. Who were these people? These were notable people who could read, write, who had some kind of knowledge. These were the scholars. And what was the language of administration? Can anybody tell me? Just write your name here. Yes, Anumega. I can see you're trying to write. Thank you. Anumega, unmute.
Persian.
Very good. Since they came from Middle East, the language that they were using in Middle East was Persian. पर्शियन क्या है? जो अभी हम उर्दू बोलते हैं ना, जो उर्दू सुनते हैं, उर्दू इज अ मिक्स ऑफ हिंदी एंड पर्शियन. जो उर्दू जिस तरीके से लिखी जाती है, इट वाज डिराइव्ड फ्रॉम पर्शियन. प्लीज किसी का माइक ऑन हो रहा है, इट्स क्रिएटिंग अ लिटिल बिट डिस्टर्बेंस. जस्ट गिव मी 1 second, प्लीज. Thank you. I am back. Yes. So the way it is written, it is inspired by Persian. अच्छा, किसी को पता है कि पर्शियन और उर्दू कौन से डायरेक्शन में लिखी जाती है? Write your name in the chat box if you know it. Yes. Soumya, I am asking that which direction is used for writing Urdu and Persian? Yes, Aditya.
From right to left?
Yes, very good. Usually how we write like this. We write from left to right. See, we have margins here and we start writing this way. But when you're writing Urdu and Persian, you start writing from here. It is written from right to the left direction. That is a very big difference that we need to keep in mind. So who were the author of Tawarikhs? They were secretaries, they were administrators, the poets, the courtiers, the kind of people who lived in these kind of posh area. But what was the problem with these Tawarikhs when they were writing all these documents is that first thing, they mostly lived in urban areas. They lived in court, they lived near the prosperous places, they did not really go to the rural areas. So if you have never gone to a rural area, how can you write accurately about it? It's difficult. So whatever they have written, we cannot trust that when if they are talking about the rural area, if that is true or not. Second thing is, we also talked about this in class 6, that when somebody is writing something, sometimes they try to please the other person. If you're working under a king, you cannot exactly criticize the king. You want to be in the good graces of that particular king. So you write only good things about them. Sometimes you write so many good things about them, the things they have not done, but you also write that so that they will feel good about it. That is not something true. But since it is recorded in history, we'll have to somehow believe that. And the other thing is that they very strongly believed in a social order. See, the society had a different way of functioning back then. It was very widely accepted by people that there are two things, gender discrimination and birthright. It was accepted by everybody that the genders are different, that women are not supposed to do this, that, and men are only supposed to do this thing, that thing, and that thing. It was very prevalent and everybody accepted that during the medieval times. And when we're talking about birthright, please, whose mic is on? There is a lot of disturbance. Just give me 1 second, I'll restart my own. The disturbance is coming from your side, beta. किसकी तरफ से आ रहा है ये? Just give me 1 second. Am I audible to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the gender distinction or discrimination, it was widely accepted by the society, and at the same time, the birthright means that the privileges that are granted by birth, that if you are the son of a king, you have these kind of certain privileges. If you are son of a nobleman, you have these certain kind of privileges. If you are son of a farmer, you are supposed to be a farmer. We studied a little bit about the Varna system last year. It was little bit similar than that, but a little bit more strict because the people, they were earning a lot. So there were a lot of class differences. And birthright, it was accepted by everybody that yes, this person is better than me because this person was born in a better family. So these kind of things, they existed at that time, and the authors which were writing these things accepted that too. So the way they were writing these things, it shows clearly that they are biased. Biased means they are particularly inclined in some direction. किसी एक डायरेक्शन में बहुत ज्यादा झुके हुए हैं, किसी चीज को वो ज्यादा फेवर कर रहे हैं. अब जहां पर जो बात दी हुई है कि when the Tarikhs are writing about Razia, they accept that she was a good ruler. They definitely accept she was a good ruler, but they are pointing out that she is a woman, so she should not be a ruler. At this point of time in this society, it does not really make sense. If somebody is capable, despite their gender, they should be given a chance. But at that time, it was very, very difficult. So Razia, she was made ruler, but due to some reason, her throne was taken away from her, and instead of that, some weak rulers were installed at that time. Now there is one particular important point given here in page number 32 in the lower half. A king cannot survive it without soldiers. Soldiers cannot live without salaries. Salary come from the revenue collected from peasants, and peasants can pay own revenue only when they're prosperous and happy. This happens when the king promotes justice and honest governance. See, they are making a circle of justice. What is the first point? King needs soldiers, right? A king needs soldiers to fight its war and keep power. And soldiers need salary. Of course, soldier needs salaries to survive. And how does salary come from? Salary comes from the revenue that is collected from people, revenue or taxes. And how can people pay taxes? If people are happy, if they are prosperous, if they have enough money, they will happily pay taxes. And how you can keep people happy? When the king is very honest and good to people, when he is providing good governance. तो ये क्या बात हुई? पूरा एक circle of justice बन गया. King is dependent on soldiers, soldiers are dependent on salaries, salaries are dependent on revenue, revenue comes from happy people, and happy people come from a good king. Circle complete हुआ. Logic समझ पा रहे हो सब लोग? Because this is a very important answer of the NCERT question also, so it should be clear to you all. किसी को बेटा अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो अभी पूछ लीजिए. If you have a problem, just write P in the chat box. I will explain it again in some other manner. Okay, since I cannot see any P, so like I said, we will not do much of content, but we will try to understand everything that we are doing. So that was all that I had to teach from the book. I hope you read that before the class, but if you did not read that, please read it now, because if you do not read, there might be some difficult words, some things that you do not understand. We need to resolve everything that we can in the classroom. Is that clear to you all? अगर अभी तक जितना पढ़ाया है उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम आती है तो हम लोग कल वहां से शुरू करेंगे, उसके बाद हम आगे पढ़ेंगे. आज मैंने कितने 4 पेज कवर करे, आगे भी मैं कोशिश करूंगी कि 3 से 4 पेज ही कवर हो. विल ट्राई आवर बेस्ट टू गो स्लो एंड डू एवरीथिंग एज क्लियरली एज पॉसिबल. ओके, स्टोरी टाइम. स्टोरी टाइम.
Yes.
ओके, सो आई विल टेल यू. किसकी स्टोरी सुनाऊं? खलजी की स्टोरी सुनाऊं या फिर मैं आपको तुगलक की स्टोरी सुनाऊं?
Your choice.
Let's take a vote. Let's take a vote. Write down in the chat box. Khalji or Tughlaq. K for Khalji, T for Tughlaq. K, T. There are 3. Oh, I'll need some time to look at all of these. They're so quick. बेटा 2 बार वोट नहीं करना प्रशांत. दोनों तरफ वोट नहीं कर सकते अपन, गलत बात है. चीटिंग होती है ये. और चीटर्स के वोट एक्सेप्ट नहीं करती मैं. Yes, बेटा, तवारिक were the chronicler of that time, Anumega. Okay, so Soumya says Tughlaq. Okay, 3K, 2T, and 4, 5, 6, 7K, and 5T. मुझे फिर से शुरू करना पड़ेगा. एक मिनट. Just give me 1 second. I will come back to you, बेटा. Okay, there are more votes for K, Khalji. Okay, then we will start with Khalji. So who Alauddin Khalji was? Alauddin Khalji was the nephew as well as the son-in-law of Jalaluddin Khalji. Jalaluddin Khalji, what he started his empire in the Delhi Sultanate. He deposed the slave dynasty because there were weak rulers and all. So what happened that he was the son-in-law of Jalaluddin Khalji. तो जो princess थी, when he got married to that princess, she was not exactly a princess, but फिर वो princess बन गई तो उसके भाव बढ़ गए. तो उसने जो है अपने हस्बैंड को इल ट्रीट करना शुरू कर दिया. when she started ill treating her husband बेचारा घर से परेशान हो गया. and he left his house. he thought कि घर पे रहूंगा तो घर पे चिक चिक होगी, तो इससे तो मैं लड़ने चला जाता हूँ. So he started going to war. And when he started going to war, he realized, "Arey, I am quite good at all this." He turned out to be a very efficient general and ruler. So he decided कि भाई अगर मैं इतना ही अच्छा हूँ तो मैं ससुर जी की बातें क्यों सुनूं? So he decided that I will become the ruler. तो उसके लिए क्या करा? उसने अपने तिकड़म लगाए. तिकड़म कैसे लगाए? He went to Devgiri. It was a place in Western India, and he raided Devgiri. He raided that. He got a lot of money and gold from that. And usually, what happens when you win something from these kind of war, you immediately have to go to the ruler. रूलर के पास जाके उसको सब जमा करना पड़ता है कि ये लो मैं आपके लिए जीत के लाया. But Alauddin did what? He was the governor of Kara or Kara, which is the modern day Allahabad. तो वो सब कुछ अपने घर ले गया इलाहाबाद. तो द रूलर गॉट एंग्री. जलालुद्दीन गॉट एंग्री कि भाई ये क्या बात हुई, ये तुम अपने घर कैसे ले गए, हाउ डेयर यू. तो उसने बोला अरे मैं आ रहा हूँ, मैं रास्ते में, लाइक एवरीबडी सेज. लेकिन फिर उसने क्या करा कि ये रास्ते में जाते जाते जितने भी लोग थे सबको वो जितना उसके पास खजाना था, जो ट्रेजर था, ही स्टार्टेड गिविंग इट अवे टू पीपल कि ये मेरी तरफ से पैसे रखो और मुझे सपोर्ट करो, मुझे सुल्तान बनाओ, मुझे सपोर्ट करो, मुझे सुल्तान बनाओ. तो वो रास्ते में लोगों को पैसे बांटता चला गया, दैट सपोर्ट मी एंड मेक मी सुल्तान एंड आई विल टेक केयर ऑफ यू. ऐसे जाते जाते जब तक वो इलाहाबाद से दिल्ली पहुंचा, ही हैड सो मेनी सपोर्टर्स, ही फेस्ड नो प्रॉब्लम इन टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द करंट सुल्तान. ही हैड अ लॉट ऑफ पावर. तो वो क्या समझ गया, वो ये चीज समझ गया कि भाई पैसा काम की चीज है, पैसा समझदार लोगों के बहुत काम आता है. लेकिन लेटर ऑन व्हाट ही डिड, अब भाई जब वो सुल्तान बन गया तो उसको ये चीज समझ में आ गई, भाई अगर मैं किसी को पैसे देके इतनी आसानी से जो है थ्रोन हासिल कर सकता हूँ, तख्त हासिल कर सकता हूँ, कोई भी कर सकता है. सो व्हाट ही डिड, उसने जितने लोगों को पैसे बांटे थे उसने सारे पैसे वापस ले लिए उनसे. जैसे वो रूलर बना, he took all the money away from that. जो उसने दिया वो तो लिया ही, जो उनके पास ऑलरेडी था वो भी उनसे ले लिया कि तुम बहुत ज्यादा अमीर हो, तुम्हें इतने सारे पैसे की जरूरत नहीं, गिव इट टू अस. He did what? He basically impoverished the nobility. जो नोबिलिटी थी ना, उनकी इतनी हालत खराब थी कि भाई मैं ना अकेले में भी सुल्तान की बुराई ना कर दूं, नहीं तो मेरा कान हाथ नाक पता नहीं क्या काट लेंगे. He was a terrorizing agent. He kept everybody in terror. लेकिन जब आम जनता की बात आती, जो हमने सर्कल ऑफ जस्टिस पढ़ा, ही अंडरस्टूड कि भाई पावर, अगर नोबिलिटी के पास ज्यादा पावर होगी तो दे कैन टेक केयर ऑफ हिम, उसको वो सल्तनत से भगा सकते हैं. लेकिन इफ नॉर्मल पीपल हैव पावर, दैट इज हाउ ही वर्क. नॉर्मल लोगों को बहुत खुश रखा उसने क्या करा कि जो ग्रेन के प्राइसेस थे वो कंट्रोल में रखे कि खाना सबको मिलना चाहिए, बिकॉज द पुअर पीपल दे डिड नॉट नीड मच. और जितना भी जो लग्जरी आइटम्स थे उसके ऊपर उसने बहुत हाई टैक्सेस लगाना शुरू कर दिए. तो उसकी वजह से जो अमीर लोग थे वो गरीब होते चले गए, और जो गरीब लोग थे दे कुड अफोर्ड फूड एंड ऑल द नेसेसिटीज दे नीडेड. सो दिस वाज द काइंड ऑफ गवर्नेंस दैट अलाउद्दीन खिलजी worked on, and this is how he became a very good and efficient ruler. And he raised a lot of money, he built fortresses around Delhi, he strengthened the army, and he was able to protect Delhi from the Mongolian attacks. अब Mongols क्या थे वो थोड़ा सा हम आगे पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन Mongols were also people who were very brutal. They only came to raid this country. अच्छा, tell me the name of 2 raiders that came to this country just for raiding.
Ma'am, I know. The
Yes,
northern invaders means the Huns and the Mongols.
Huns and the
The Huns.
Mongols. All right. Can you be a little bit more particular? The more popular ones who came here and looted places. Genghis Khan. Okay, Genghis Khan, Mongols. Yes, correct.
Mahmud
Yes,
of Ghazni. Mahmud of Ghazni.
Mahmud of Ghazni. Yes. Another one. I started the chapter with that. मोहम्मद घोरी. ठीक है, गजनी और घोरी ये 2 लोग थे. गजनी कहाँ गया था? गजनी was the one who desecrated the temple of Somnath. घोरी was the one who took control of Delhi and gave away Delhi to his people. कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक, his slave. मंगोल्स और गेंगिस खान किसी दिन हम टाइम बचेगा तो बहुत बढ़िया पढ़ेंगे इनके बारे में. They are also quite interesting people. So that is all I had for today. If there is something that you wish to ask till now, we can cover that. since we are going quite slow, I'll tell you some things. We will try our best to cover the question answers of the things that we are covering every day. I'll ask you some questions. If you know the answer, it's okay. If you do not, then we will cover it right now. So whoever knows the answer, just write A in the chat box. I will ask you, please do not speak without permission. The first question is, which ruler established his or her capital at Delhi? Just write A in the chat box if you wish to answer. Yes, Arpita. Please unmute your mic and tell me.
तोमर राजपूत.
तोमर राजपूत. और बेटा इसके अंदर ना रूलर का नाम भी चाहिए हमें. रूलर का नाम बता सकते हो आप?
नो मैम.
कोई बात नहीं. Anybody? Yes, Soumya first.
Ma'am, my answer is also that only.
Okay, कोई बात नहीं. अनुमेघा?
अनंगपाला.
Yes, अनंगपाल. पेज नंबर 31 सबसे ऊपर लिखा हुआ है. Okay, good work. What was the language of administration? Persian we already discussed. अब देखो मैं बोलती जा रही हूँ, इसको कहीं नोट डाउन करते जाइए. ये आपके क्वेश्चन आंसर्स कवर हो रहे हैं. ओके. थर्ड वाला अभी हम पहुंचे नहीं है. फोर्थ वाला अभी हम पहुंचे नहीं है, तो हम नहीं करेंगे. ऑल राइट. फिफ्थ वाले को मार्क कर सकते हैं आप. अकॉर्डिंग टू द सर्कल ऑफ जस्टिस, व्हाई वाज इट इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर मिलिट्री कमांडर्स टू कीप द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द पेजेंट्री इन माइंड? हु विश टू आंसर? सायरा मयान, थोड़ा टाइम पर आया कर बेटा. क्लास हो गई पूरी, अब इसको यूट्यूब पे वॉच करना जो रह गया आपका. यस. एनीबडी? कोई बात नहीं आयान. Just have a look in the YouTube and the class will be uploaded probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Don't worry. Yes, Anumega, please tell me the answer. वैसे मैं आंसर बता चुकी हूँ, ध्यान नहीं दे रहे हो तुम लोग.
According to the circle of justice, it was important for military commanders to keep interests of the peasantry in mind because salaries for the soldiers come from the revenue collected from the peasants. But peasants can only pay the revenue when they are prosperous and happy.
Very good. The answer is on the page number 32, the portion that I read out to you. ठीक है? Those who could not understand the language, you can refer to page number 32 जो साइड में दिया हुआ है सबसे नीचे, the circle of justice. Okay. And sixth भी अभी हमने कवर नहीं करा, seventh भी नहीं करा, eighth भी नहीं करा. Yes. Ninth we have covered. Do you think the authors of Tawarik would provide information about the lives of ordinary men and women? Yes, Vyom. Soumya, just give me 1 second. I'll just discuss this answer and then I'll come back to you. Yes, Vyom.
Ma'am, the answer is no, because as you tell, the authors of Tawariks lived in cities and hardly ever in villages. So Tawariks.
Okay. The Tawariks could not provide.
So Tawariks could not provide information about ordinary men and women.
Good. The answer will be found on page number 33. It is on the first paragraph where it is written that how the Tawariks had a limited information about people. Yes, Soumya, what did you want to ask?
Ma'am, in page 32, the circle of justice में मिलेगा ना आंसर नंबर 5.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. इसमें एक extra question आप लोग add करिए, which will be on page number 32, just above the circle of justice. Who were the authors of Tawarik? Okay. The answer will be the authors of Tawarik were learned men, secretaries, administrators, poets, and courtiers who both recounted events and advised ruler on the governance, emphasizing the importance of just rule. ये जो पूरा पैराग्राफ है जो फोटोग्राफ और सर्कल ऑफ जस्टिस के ऊपर है, who were the authors of Tawarik? Just write down this extra question. And I think this is all for this portion, and you should also write down the definitions of birthright and gender distinctions which are given on page number 33 on the right hand side. Can everybody find it? It is written, it is highlighted in red color, because you should know what these things actually mean. So is there any, yes, the question is beta, who were the authors of Tawarik? The first line is given already there, there should not be any problem in writing down the spellings. The authors of Tawarik उसमें दिया ही है, उसके आगे बस who were लगा लीजिए, who were the authors of Tawarik. So I think this is all for today, and we will keep continuing this chapter in the next week. There is a lot of time. Try to read as much as you can and try to find out answers as much as you can so that we can continue this class smoothly. Does anybody has any problem till now, or should I close this session? Yes, Soumya. Yes, Soumya.
मैम ये जो एक्स्ट्रा क्वेश्चन है इसका आंसर पेज नंबर 32 के द सर्कल्स ऑफ जस्टिस के ऊपर और पिक्चर्स के नीचे वाला जो पैराग्राफ है उसमें है.
यस बेटा, वही पूरा पैराग्राफ उसका आंसर है. ओके,
यस मैम.
ओके. So I think this is all for today, and take care. Thank you, Sairam, and keep studying. Beta, now you may leave the class.